Hello there, Tolkien fanatics. Welcome back to another video. I'm going to be covering another Middle-earth strategy battle game army today, and I'm going to actually be doing an army review on the Corsairs of Umbar. So I first wanted to take a minute and just say thank you to all the folks who have subscribed to this channel so far. I appreciate it, and I look forward to providing y'all with some awesome content now and into the future. If there's something you would like to see, please, by all means, let me know in the comment section below. I know I'm covering a lot of bases with this channel between right now 2 different video game platforms as well as this Middle-earth SBG content. So if there's something that you're not a fan of and you're only here for one specific content, maybe you're a Battle for Middle-earth fan and you don't really care about me talking about this tabletop game stuff, that's cool. Please keep subscribing. I appreciate that, and just use the notifications button below in order to let you know when I post videos up. My goal is to make sure that I can get at least one of each different type of video every week, if not more, obviously. So, for example, this past week was really good for me. I was able to get several videos up for Battle for Middle-earth, as well as a couple for Lotro, and then also plenty of MESBG content. So MESBG is my big hobby that I am into, so that's the one I'm going to be leaning towards mostly when I do videos. But I don't want to let anybody else who is subscribed to the channel down. And if there is something you want to see, let me know. Also, I am working on doing some lore videos. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to do my script, because there are a lot of channels out there, from Men of the West to History of the Ages, and shout out to both of those channels who I've taken inspiration from, who already do lore videos, and they do a very good job of it. And I know that my attempt at it will pale in comparison, so I'm trying to figure out exactly what sort of format I want to use for that. But, like I said, today we'll be covering Corsairs of Umbar. Now, this is an army that I've had a pretty good amount of experience with, actually, over the past, I'd say, 8 to 10 months. I've played against it several times, and then I've also been playing with it a number of times. I was contemplating using it at a escalation event last year here in North Carolina, before switching and taking a different army. And I did just recently use it in an event here in North Carolina a few weeks ago, and that was the Sandhills of Ruin. And I talked about my adventure there in another video. So if you're curious to see how that went, go ahead and check that video out. I'll leave a link below, or a comment card in the video up in the upper right hand corner, so you can click and see and go check that out. Like I said, I did use this army at that event, and I ended up winning the event. So pretty good army. There are some weaknesses, some flaws, and I will cover that. But first, let's go ahead and talk about the models. So it is a small army when it comes to the type of the model count that it can have. There's actually only 6 profiles under Corsairs of Umbar, and then there's 2 other profiles you can, or I'm sorry, 4 other. Wow, 4 other profiles that can be covered. So I'm going to talk about just strictly the Corsairs of Umbar models, and then go ahead and touch on the other ones that can be taken. So we'll start with the warriors, and the standard Corsair of Umbar warrior is just called that, a Corsair of Umbar. So usually folks just call it a warrior for short, but he's fight 4, 4 upshoot value, strength 3, defense 3, 1 attack, 1 wound, courage 3. Typical man courage of 3, so that's pretty good. Better than courage of 2 for orcs, which is 1 bonus over taking Corsairs of Umbar over than, say, like a Mordor or Moran and Orc army. Fight value 4, that's very good. This entire army is fight 4 better from its units, from its warrior units all the way up to its heroes, so that definitely helps. Their upgrades are bow, shield, or spear, and I always try and give my guys shields if I can, just for the fact that you do see a lot of strength 3 bows out there, between, say, like Esgaroth bows from Dale to Elven bows and other things. So just having that defensive 4 is a little bit better against range, and then in combat it really helps, because most armies are at least strength 3, unless you're talking something like hobbits or goblins, and I think even I think goblins are strength 3 too. So hobbits is really the only army that's jumping out at me at the moment that's lower than strength 3. So having that defensive 4 will help you in combat, because that means that your opponent, who's strength 3, would be wounding you on 5s instead of straight 4s. Now, there's plenty of strength 4 armies out there. I'm looking at Isengard, for example, or dwarves, and they won't care. But having that defense 4 can help you against the majority of armies in the game. So moving on, we have Corsair Reavers. Oh, I'm sorry. The other thing I need to talk about for Corsair of Umbar is they have sword and throwing daggers in their profile, and that's very key because throwing daggers are a strength 3 weapon. Now it's a 4-up shoot value, but hey, that's okay because charging in 50-50 chance to hit your opponent with a throwing dagger, maybe just take them out straight up, especially with a strength 3 throwing weapon. That's nothing to laugh at. I will say I had many kills with these throwing daggers at my event. Again, go check that out and see how it went for me. So that's another thing, is you're going to have a lot of throwing weapons and a lot of ranged ability in this army. But we'll talk about strengths and weaknesses in a bit. So moving on, like I said, Corsair River is the next one. He has fight 4, 4-up shoot value, strength 3, defense 3, 2 attacks, 1 wound, courage 4. So he's got a bit of courage value. That's a nice thing to have, having courage 4. That will help with his special rule, which we'll talk about in a moment. And 2 attacks. Now this is the cheapest 2-attack unit in the game outside of Watchers of Karna. And Watchers of Karna, I think I actually like the Corsair Reavers over the Watchers of Karna just because of what the Reavers can bring. So you are equipped with 2 swords. That's how they have 2 attacks. Now, does that mean if, for example, you were to have one of your swords shattered by a Gundabad Black Shield Shaman that you revert to 1 attack? No, that just simply means that you still have that 1 sword. It's not removing your attack statistics just because you're war gear. It just means that a shatter is not going to be able to make you unarmed, giving you -1 to your dice roll. So let's look at his special rules, and this is where the Corsair Reavers can either make or break you. So it's called Mindless Killers. Any Corsair Reaver that starts its move at least 6 inches away from a friendly Corsair Boson must take a courage test. If the test is failed, they will be driven into a bloodthirsty rampage and will charge the nearest enemy model. If 2 or more models are equal distance away from each other, then the Reaver's controlling player may choose which model the Reaver will charge. If a Reaver fails his courage test and it is not possible for it to charge an enemy model, it will charge the nearest friendly model instead. Should a Corsair Reaver charge a friendly model, then the charged model may not move during the move phase and must fight the Reaver during the fight phase. If a Reaver fails his test and there are no models, friendly or foe, that it can charge, it will move 6 inches towards the closest enemy model instead. The Reaver's controlling player may choose to have the Reaver automatically fail this courage test if they wish. When driven into the bloodthirsty rampage, Corsair Reavers gain a bonus of +1 to any 2 wound rolls and do not need to take courage tests for charging terror-causing models. So this is really good. Being able to basically come, berserk. They call it a bloodthirsty rampage, just berserk. Make them go crazy is another thing that we call it. Pretty much gives them fearless and a +1 to wound. Now this is good and bad because it says specifically it has to charge the nearest enemy model. So if you've got 1 model sitting in front of you and 3 Reavers, if you choose to make all 3 of them go crazy, then all 3 of them have to charge that 1 model. And the annoying thing is that you can't really pick and choose how that works. And I've made this mistake a few times. If you can let your guy go crazy, so you're going to get that +1 to wound, but if there's a model nearby, say there's a model 2 inches away and you want to charge one that's 4 inches away, you have to charge the one that's 2 inches away. So positioning your Reavers can be very, very important. Usually what I'll do is go ahead and use my first turn of combat just to position my Reavers so that the next turn, when I make them all go crazy, they're either in a position where I want them to be so that they can get their +1 to wound, or they're equidistant from enemy models so that it doesn't really matter how I charge them. And being courage 4 definitely helps with that courage check. The other important thing to remember is that you really need to get Corsair Bosons in your list if you take these guys. And usually when I deploy them with a Corsair Boson. That way the Boson can keep them unchecked until it's time for them to basically release the pain. So that's the Corsair River. Moving on, we have the Corsair Arbalister. So Arbalesters fight 4. Again, all the warriors are fight 4 in this. 4-up shoot value, strength 3, defense 3, 1 attack, 1 wound, courage 3. They have a crossbow, a dagger, and a pavis. So this is important. The pavis is a giant wooden shield that provides the bearer +3 defense as long as the bearer is not engaged in combat with another model. The bearer may use the rules for shielding, although they will not gain the +1 defense bonus as they also carry a crossbow. So basically, against ranged shooting, they're defense 6. In combat, they revert to their defense 3. Now, this is useful because I will say that crossbows are one of those things. They can be good or they can be bad. They can be bad because if you got a 50-50 chance to hit, So it's a little. Sometimes it's hard to hit, especially if you're someone like me who rolls pretty low on average. You should have a 50% chance. I usually hit 33% of the time. Nothing normal there with my dice rolls. If you ever watched any of my battle reports on other channels. But that being said, the strength 4 that it gives you on a crossbow shot is very deadly, and being able to take things like Rangers of Middle Earth out for any faction, be they Arnor or Gondor, or how about Warriors of Rohan without a shield, a defense 4 base. So there you go. You're wounding a lot of things on 4s. You're wounding yourself. This own army is defense 3, defense 4. But then also what's great is you can move them and get them into combat, and a lot of times what I'll use them to do is just shield, exactly like it says you can do, because you can use that Pavis as a shield. And since you're fight 4, you're making that fight 4 meta. So you can really use them to hold a flank up while reinforcements come to help take over and win. A lot of times I'll move my Arbalesters around with my Reavers, use my Reavers as my charging, attacking element, and then also use the Arbalesters to just hold a flank. Go in and charge in a situation where I don't have a banner or something, and just use 1 or 2 of them, 3 or 4 of them, use however many I have in that area. Yeah, if I can outnumber my opponent, say 2-on-1, 3-on-1, I'll go ahead and attack. But in a situation where if I'm just fighting 1-on-1, I'll go ahead and shield, because that'll give me the advantage of potentially winning the fight, and then I'm not striking wounds, but I'm not getting struck against either, because at defense 3, again, going back to those Corsair of Umbar warriors, strength 3 models are winning on 4s. So those are the 3 warrior models that are in this list. So I want to go ahead and talk about one more, and this is under the army composition. I'll take a moment here just to read through it. So the army composition, this army may include Dalamir, Fleet Master of Umbar, the Knight of Umbar, Hashem, Corsair Captains, Corsair Bosons, Black Numenorean Marshals, Corsairs of Umbar, Corsair Reavers, Corsair Arbalesters, and Black Numenoreans. So I want to talk about Black Numenoreans real quick, because they are the other warrior that can be taken in this list. So flipping over real quick, sorry, got to find them on their page. So there we go, Black Numenoreans. So Black Numenorean is found in the Barad-dûr section of the book, and like it says, they are allowed to be taken with Corsairs of Umbar. So they are a fight 4, strength 3, defense 6, 1 attack, 1 wound, courage 4. It's pretty good. So you're going to get another model that's courage 4. It's nothing to laugh at. Okay? War gear, heavy armor, sword, and shield. So that's why they're defense 6. They've got that heavy armor giving them defense 5, and then that shield to give them defense 6. So they are good to get in. They do cost as much as a Arbalester. Not an Arbalester, a Reaver. So you have to decide what you want to use. Do you want to go more Reavers with 2 attacks, or do you want to get a couple defense 6 guys in there to maybe hold a flank? The other reason why you would take these guys is they have terror for their special rule, and that can be really useful. Getting them into a combat with your own hero, like Dalamir, or say Delgamar, that can be very useful because of the fact that will make it harder for your opponent to charge them than to try and peel them out of that combat. So they also can take a war horn and a banner, and that's key, because while there are a number of things that Corsairs of Umbar can do, like I said, all their warriors the Corsair warriors have throwing daggers. They can't take a banner. They can use the Bosons as a banner, and Delgamar can use his whip as a banner. Unfortunately, they can't actually take a physical banner. So maybe allying, or not, you're not really even allying, I'm sorry, because they're part of the list. Maybe taking a Black Numenorean upgraded with a banner can be useful. The other thing that they can take is a Warhorn. And that can be invaluable as well, because given that +1 courage bonus to your army means that you can now get your Reavers up to courage 5. So if they're not going near a bosun, they have a much better chance of taking that courage test and passing it every turn. I would be more likely and more willing to, in my own situation, use Reavers as their own little strike force. Send out a little, trio of them. Obviously, I'd have to keep them near each other, or it wouldn't be useful. So failing a courage test would be painful in that situation. Maybe a quartet, maybe 4 of them. But being courage 5 then with the Warhound upgrade, you've got a much better chance. Rolling a 5 on 2 dice is a heck of a lot easier to do than rolling a 6. So that gives you a much better chance of passing those courage checks if you're outside the 6-inch range needed to keep him from going crazy with a Boson. But yeah, I wanted to cover those real quick because they're important. I'll go ahead and talk about these other guys. Excuse me. Good Lord. Can't stop yawning. We'll go ahead and talk about the Black Numenorean Marshal as well, because I'm already talking about Black Numenorean. So Black Numenorean Marshal is basically just a Black Numenorean who's been upgraded into a leader. So they are Fight 5, and that's pretty good to have, because having a Fight 5 hero is great. You'll be able to then go around and do what you need to do, and do what you need to do against Fight 4, meta Fight 4 warriors. This is just basically an unnamed captain, and his profile reflects that. Fight 5, 4 upshoot value, strength 4, that's good. Defense is 7, very good. 2 attacks, 2 wounds, courage 5, 2 might, 1 will, 1 fate. Heavy armor, sword, and shield. All right. His heroic actions include march. You can be upgraded with an armored horse, lance, or 2-handed weapon. If you give him the 2-handed weapon and replace the shield, so his defense would drop to 6. That is key to know. And then, of course, he also has terror, just like the Black Numenorean, because, again, a Black Numenorean Marshal is just a warrior that's been upgraded to a hero. I like them. I think they're very good. I think they're kind of criminally underused just because of the fact that Mordor, Barad-dûr, those kinds of armies have so many other heroes that can just do so many things that you almost don't even think about the Black Numenorean Marshal. But, I mean, he's a hero of fortitude, so he could lead 12 warriors. Fight 5, again, he kind of reminds me of like Forlong. Forlong from the Fiefdoms is Fight 5 without strike, so is this Numenorean Marshal. So they're very good at going and killing troops as well, because at strength 4 and with a lance, I mean, I would not take him without upgrading him with an armored horse and lance. Yeah, it kind of makes him pricey. He's basically the same points as Dalamir at that point. And he doesn't really do as much, but having a guy who's horseback, that's very good, because that is one of the things that this army lacks. This army lacks mobility. They don't have any mountain models, so the ability to go ahead and get maybe a Black Numenorean Marshal wouldn't be a bad idea. Plus, they have March, so I don't know. I've never really thought about it. I think I might have to start looking at it in the future if I want to just debate over taking a captain or taking a Black Numenorean Marshal. I usually don't actually take captains at lower points games. Like the event I went to, I said it was a 600-point event, and my heroes were Delgamar, Dalamir, and 2 Bosons. Maybe at 800 points, you think about taking a Black Numenorean Marshal. They can be pretty useful there then, because then you have 2 points of might to do marches, because, again, they're not going to be striking. Yeah, you give up throwing daggers, which is what the Corsair captain has, and we'll talk about the captain here in a moment. I don't know, but defense 7, courage 5. I would be hard pressed to see why I don't take him. He's a bit more expensive. Yeah, I think I would have to maybe do that. Give up 3 or 4 model. I don't even think it's that many. Let's see, it'd be 80, 50, 30. I gotta make up 30 points. So it's just shy of 4 models. Because these models are pretty cheap at 7 or 8 points a model, depending on how you upgrade them. Okay, 8 or 9, depending on how you upgrade them. Usually, if I give my spearmen, I give my spearmen shields, so they become a little bit more expensive, like I said. But not bad, not bad. It'd be worth it, I think, to be able to get that extra hitting power, the mobility with the armored horse, the lance with the +1 to wound, and then an extra point of might. And then also defense 7 is nothing to laugh at. And he's courage 5, and again, you have a terror model. So yeah. So that's Black Numenorean and Black Numenorean Marshals. There's 2 other models I wanted to talk about, and we'll cover them real quick. The Hashem and the Knight of Umbar. Go ahead and do the Knight of Umbar first. Let me roll over to his page. The Knight of Umbar can be found in the Mordor section. Dark Marshal, there he is, Knight of Umbar. So Knight of Umbar is a ring wraith, and his profile reflects that he's Fight 5, Strength 4, Defense 8, 1 attack, 1 wounds, Courage 6, very good, 2 might, 12 will, 2 fate. He comes with Armor of the Sundered Land and Sword. So Armor of the Sundered Land, the Knight of Umbar only loses a point of will for having been in a fight if he loses a fight during the fight phase. For example, if he doesn't win the duel roll to see which side makes strikes. I mean, I don't know why they have to put that in there. That's pretty much in the rules. So that's actually a really good bonus there, because usually the Knight of Umbar he's got a couple other things he can do to make it so that he's really not losing in the fight phase. I would say at an 800-point list, if I had to choose between the Black Numenorean Marshal I was speaking of earlier or the Knight of Umbar, I'm going Knight of Umbar all the time. Now, the Knight of Umbar, of course, is more expensive. His heroic actions are simply heroic channeling. So he's not as good as, say, Kamul or the Witch King, which both have heroic strike, which really makes him a great combat hero. That's what I was thinking. I'm trying to think of the word. I was like, what is it? Yeah, they make some really great combat heroes. But the Knight of Umbar's got a few other things he can use. So he does have some options for his war gear upgrades, and that's Horse, Fell Beast, and Armored Fell Beast. If I take a what's these guys called? Ringwraith. I'm usually going to try and take him on a Fell Beast. I just think that obviously you really need that. That way when you charge, Fell Beasts have 2 attack base, so you can get 3 attacks on the charge. It's really necessary to have, especially because the Knight of Umbar is definitely he's a combat hero. And there's a lot of debate out there who's better, Kamul or the Knight of Umbar. Well, that's up for you to decide. I'm not going to, say. I would say they both have strengths and weaknesses over each other in that situation. Like I said, Knight of Umbar does not have strike, whereas Kamul the Easterling does have strike. So, yeah, it's up to you which one you like better. But special rules, he does have Harboring Evil, so he's going to be giving that -1 to your opponent's courage. He also has Terror, which is something good that you could be having to use again as a tool in your arsenal. Again, Terror is never something to laugh at. He is a Hero of Valor, so he can lead 15 troops. And he has Will of Evil, which is of course the one where when he's in combat, he loses 1 will from his store, and that can be negated by his Armor of the Sundered Land if he can win the duel roll. So his other special rule is Combat Mimicry. At the start of any fight phase, before heroic actions are declared, the Knight of Umbar may spend a will point to activate this ability. The Knight of Umbar can elect to use the fight, strength, and or attacks value of his opponent instead of his own. He does not need to adopt all of these characteristics. He could, for example, only adopt the fight value. So this is really good. This is where it becomes the choice of which one's better, the Knight of Umbar or the Kamul the Easterling. Being able to copy your opponent can really help you out. For example, if you are on a Fell Beast and you charge in against, say, Aragorn, who's got 3 attack base, well, if you copy his attack statistics, from my understanding, you get those 3 to yours, but then since you charge, you still get your bonus on the charge. So you basically go to 4 attacks, and that can be really, really powerful. Also, since he doesn't have strike, being able to copy your opponent's fight value is also a great thing. Now, again, that's going to be hit or miss for what your opponent does, because if you're going against an enemy hero, and let's be honest, most big enemy heroes have strike, they're going to instantly go and have to use a heroic strike to become higher. But that is a good way to change how your opponent uses their might points and what they're going to do in combat. And again, you do have to pay a point of will to do this, so that the Armor of the Sundered Land really comes in useful there, because of the fact that if you lose that fight, you're losing 2 points of will just to do the combat mimicry and the Will of Evil, which requires you to give one up. So when you're using the combat mimicry, you got to basically use it in a situation where you want to win. You're going to win. You have to win. So you're not giving up that extra will. I mean, 12 will sounds like a lot, but it only takes a few bad turns of pairing up combat mimicry with being in combat for you to go from 12 to like 4 in the split blink of an eye. You're not really casting with him. He's a very slanted caster. Drain Courage at 3+, Transfix at a 4, and then Compel and Still Fear and Sap Will at 5 ups, and Black Darts at a 6. He's not really a caster, so that's kind of why you see only 12 will. But yeah, that's the Knight of Umbar. Let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and cover the Hashem now, and I have to flip back to him. He is page 197 in the Serpent Horde list, if I can find him. Oh, where are you at? I know you're in here somewhere, Hashem. It says 197, but it's definitely not 197. Oh, Hashem, where art thou? Hashem, there he is. 193. Well, that's definitely wrong. Okay, so Hashem, he is considered to be a hero of valor in the Corsairs of Umbar list. And he has a fight value of 3, strength of 4, defense of 4, 3 attacks. That's big. Having a 3 attack model is nothing to laugh at. 2 wounds, courage 4, 1 attack, 1 will, 3 fate. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that might, will, fate profile. 1 will, basically a simple transfix or sap will, and he's, going to be compelled or transfixed around the board at your enemy's pleasure. 3 attacks is great, so getting him in there can be very useful, especially since he's strength 4. But not being able to do any knockdowns can really hurt. His war gear includes daggers, throwing daggers, and blowpipe. So blowpipe, for those who don't know, is a 12-inch ranged attack. I believe it's at strength 3, but don't quote me on that. I would have to check. But either way, I guess that would just give you the ability to shoot a little farther than the throwing daggers, which are 6-inch range. And then he does have a 3-up shoot value, which is nice. His heroic actions are strike or defense. But with only 1 point of might, you got 1 chance to get it, and that's it. His special rules include Bane of Kings and Stalk Unseen. So Stalk Unseen is Elven Cloak. If he's hidden behind, obscured by any sort of terrain, he will be hidden from view. So shooting, magic attacks, and charging against him in that situation are not possible. And then Bane of Kings allows you to reroll all failed wounds. And then his last special rule is Preternatural Agility, and he's never trapped while he's standing. Now, if he gets knocked down, he's obviously trapped. But if he goes into a combat and he gets surrounded and he's not knocked prone, then he can never be trapped. But that defense 4 with only 2 wounds, yeah, 3 fate's great, but again, not a big fan of it. So that's the Hashrin, and like I said, he's a hero of valor. So we've got 4 models left to cover, and these are all straight from the Corsair of Umbar list itself, that section. So we'll talk about the Boson. Strength of 4, shoot value of 4, fight value of 4, strength. Wow. Fight value of 4, shoot value of 4+, strength of 4, defense of 4. Lots of 4s. Can you see my issue here? 2 attacks, 2 wounds, courage 4, 1 might, 1 will, 1 fate. Sword and throwing daggers, and his only heroic action that he has is march. Options include bow, crossbow, shield, 2-handed axe, spear. He has commanding bellow. So friendly Corsair models within 3 inches of a Corsair boson count as being in range of a banner. So it says friendly Corsair models. So that being said, it includes himself and other Corsair heroes. That's important because when we get to Dalgamar, I'll explain. Like I said, I usually take 2 of these guys because depending on the points value that we're playing at, I try to get at least 8 to 10. The last event I went to, I had 12 Reavers because I played just straight Corsairs. I didn't take a Hashran. I didn't take the Knight of Umbar. I didn't take any of the other guys that I mentioned, Black Numenorean Marshal. I just took straight Corsairs. So having 2 guys with 3-inch banner range, as well as being able to keep my Corsair Reavers from going crazy if they fail a test, since they could just travel around with them, was really, really useful. And at 600 points, they are just cheap enough where I feel they're useful. They're good to get in there for a model that has a couple extra points of attack. I usually always give them a shield. I don't waste my time with crossbows on them because they're going to be moving with the Reavers. They don't want to be sitting and shooting. They want to be moving with your Reavers to get into combat. So it's important to do that. So that's the Boson. Then we'll talk about the Captain, who's basically the Boson just with a couple better statistics, and that's fight value and might. So he's a fight 5. So that's why I said, earlier, do you want to take a Boson? I'm not Boson. Do you want to take a Captain, or do you want to take a Black Numenorean Marshal? So, fight of 5, shoot value of 4, strength of 4, defense of 4, 2 attack, 2 wound, courage 4, 2 might, 1 will, 1 fate. He's a hero of fortitude. Oh, so are Bosons, by the way. They're heroes of fortitude as well. He comes with sword and throwing daggers. He also knows march. He can take a bow, crossbow, shield, or 2-handed weapon. So I usually just, again, give him a shield because I want that defense of 5 for combat and for strength and for shooting. So, like I said, a few points more expensive than a Boson. You get 1 better fight value, 1 better point of might. No banner ability, which is probably why the Boson is not like 10 to 15 points cheaper than the Captain. because the banner ability is really good, and the fact that he keeps the Reavers from going crazy. 2 models left, and then I'll talk a little bit about strengths and weaknesses of the army. So Delgamar, Gatemaster Umbar, Fight 3, Strength 4, Defense 5, 3 Attack, 2 Wound, Courage 4, 3 Might, 1 Will, 1 Fate. Very good looking profile. Here comes the weakness. Heroic actions, only strength, so no strike. So far, the only model that we've had in this list that can strike has been the Hashem. And he's got 1 point of might to do it with. So it's not like you're going to be out fighting any big heroes. That's where sometimes taking the Corsair or the Knight of Umbar can be useful. So his war gear includes armor, sword, whip, and throwing daggers. And a whip is also a ranged weapon. I can't remember how far it is. I want to say it's like a 2-inch range, so don't quote me on that. So special rule, Ruthless Command. This is what I was talking about. I said earlier, Corsair, friendly Corsair warrior, or friendly Corsair models. This is where, Corsair model that affects both hero and warrior. This is where I was talking about with Delgamar. So the Ruthless Commander special rule. Friendly Corsair warrior models within 3 inches of Delgamar may choose to reroll a single dice during a duel roll. However, if a Corsair warrior model makes this reroll and fails to win the duel roll, they immediately suffer a strength 2 hit. Yeah, so you can only use it against warriors, but this is an army where you kind of like spam them. So yeah, it's not that big of a deal if you hit your own guy with a strength 2. Now you do have a good chance of killing him because again, defensive 4. Now the key thing to this is you can do it to every single warrior that's in a fight. So if you got a situation where you say, we'll just say an unguided number 7. You got 7 guys in a fight. Somehow you got 5 in base contact with 2 supports. And of those 7 dice, you let me roll and I roll a 3 high. And your opponent, who's a fight 3 model, rolls 1 dice because he doesn't have a shield and rolls a 6. Well, all you need to do is 1 dang 6. Just 1 6 on 7 dice. And you would have won. But you rolled a 3 high. Hey, Delgamar's in range. And so is everybody else. You can whip all 7 of those guys if you so choose until you get a 6. Okay? Well, I can't say until. You can whip them all once, hoping to get that 6. And being me, I'd probably re-roll all 7 of them and ended up with a 2 high. So that is key. Now, the other thing to that, this has been FAQ'd, is if you, say, roll 5 of them, and the first 4 are not a 6, and then the 5th one is a 6, well, you have won the fight. So those 4 guys that didn't win, they're not taking the strength 2 hit, which is very important. All right, so last but not least is Dalamir, Fleetmaster Umbar. Oh, sorry, Delgamar is a Hero of Valor. So up till now, we've had 2 Hero of Valors, which was the Hashem and the Knight of Umbar. And again, I feel like those are models you're not taking at 700 or below. Maybe you sneak the Knight of Umbar in on a horse at 700, but below that, at like 600, like I said, the heroes I took were Delgamar, Dalamir, and Bosons. So if you're just going to play straight what's part of the Corsair of Umbar list and not any of these guys from, they are part of it, don't get me wrong. The Black Numenorean Marshal, Knight of Umbar, Hashem, they are part of the Corsair of Umbar list. So just depends on how you want to play it. So Dalamir, Fleetmaster of Umbar, he's a hero legend. Yay, you got a hero legend, you can lead 18 troops. Yay. That's about as good as it gets when it comes to Dalamir. Very, very lackluster. Fight 5, Strength 4, Defense 4, 3 Attack, 2 Wounds, Courage 4, 2 Might, 2 Will, 3 Fate. Again, one of those weird profiles, because Dalamir supposedly is a master of the Order of Hashari, which is where the Hashem comes from. So again, he's got that 3 Fate thing, 3 Attack thing, but only 2 Wounds. Terrible. And 2 Might. I'd put him and Thaden probably on par for worst heroes of legend in the game. So war gear, swords, throwing daggers, and smoke bombs. So he's a 5-up hit value, which is good. So those throwing daggers can do some really good work for him. And then smoke bombs. These are throwing weapons of the strength in 1. Any model hit but not slain by these weapons must immediately expend a point of will or be subjected to the effects of the channeled version of the transfixed magical power. Should Dalamir ever roll a 1 with this smoke bomb, then his supply has ran out and he cannot use them for the remainder of the game. So that's really good. Basically, you just don't want to roll a 1. And even if you roll a 2, that's not a big deal because it's like, hey, it's better than a 1. So you got a 66% chance of hitting your opponent with a strength 1, where if they don't have a point of will to expend or choose not to, then they're transfixed. Channeled version, which is half fight value rounded down. No, rounded up. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of something else. So half fight value rounded up, and then half attacks rounded up as well. So that can be really good against the hero, especially maybe if you do take the Knight of Umbar in this list and throw like 6 will, 6 dice at sap will to, bring your opponent's will stores down, and then roll Dalamir and then hit them with a smoke bomb and get them transfixed. I could see that being very useful and effective against some bigger heroes like Théoden I mentioned earlier. So his heroic actions are defense and strike. Yay, you got another striker, but he's only got 2 points of might. So Hashem and Dalamir, 2 points, 1 might, or 2 points of might with 1 point of might with the other. You're only striker. So you've got 3 total points of might to use in strikes if you so choose to take the Hashem around along with Dalamir. I will say I would rather take Delgamar over the Hashem, because Delgamar, while he's not as great, he doesn't have Bane of Kings like the Hashem does, so he's not re-rolling failed wounds. Just those 3 points of might. It's going to be useful to get heroic movements off in situations where you really need them, and that's where that can be useful. Special rules for Dalamir: Bane of Kings and Stalk Unseen. So again, if he is somewhat hidden by terrain, you can't see him to shoot, use magical spells, or charge. Bane of Kings is re-rolling failed wounds, and he also has the preternatural agility, which means while he's standing, he cannot be trapped. So there you go, guys. That is everything in the Corsairs of Umbar list. So let's talk about some of their strengths and weaknesses. So their strengths: throwing weapons. A lot of your troops have throwing weapons. I mean, the backbone of your army is going to be built on the Corsairs of Umbar, which are the warriors, the base warrior, and all of them have throwing weapons. And then you look at the majority of the heroes I talked about: Delgamar, Dalamir, Boson, Captain, Hashem, all have throwing weapons. So that's going to be very useful for you as well. Okay, Fight 4. I mentioned it already. Your whole army from the lowest warrior up is Fight 4. Better. Now, of course, better ends at Fight 5. But you're going to have that meta, which you need, and then you're not going to have to worry about Fight 3 armies. And I will say, in 2 of my 3 games, that was very key for me at the Fayetteville event I went to in North Carolina a few weeks ago that I mentioned, because I was able to roll into a good number of fights in one of my games and all of my fights in the next, and if I rolled a 6, I won. So that's very, very useful. Your heroes, you've got a couple of them that can be hard to target because of the Stalk Unseen special rule, but again, that's only 2 of them, being the Hashem and Dalamir. And I believe the Hashem is considered to be a named hero, so you can only take 1 of them anyway. That's kind of a mediocre point to talk of, but not too bad. Another strength is definitely the archery. We talked about throwing weapons, but let's not sleep on arbalesters. This is a pretty low-cost army. You don't have a lot of elite troops. You don't have a lot of... Well, I would say the Reavers are pretty elite troop, but you don't have a lot of expensive elite troops. We're not talking about 15-point Iron Guard here with, Kaza Doom. We're talking... Or 15-point... what are they? Isengard Urkai Berserkers. You're talking about a, cheap, not even double-digit point Corsair River, who definitely is lacking in areas of defense, obviously. But that ability to get +1 to wound is nothing to laugh at. So, and then the arbalesters, you should never laugh at crossbows. I've had a very up and down experience with them. Games that they're down, I usually don't do very good, fittingly. But games that they're on, they are on. And it's not even really one of those things where it's like you're not going to go in with... So 600 points. I think I maxed out I had 12. Yeah, I had 12. Yeah. I had exactly 1/3 of my guy, because I had 40 models with 4 heroes. So that's 36 warrior models, and 1/3 of them can be 12. Would be 12, which means 12 of them could have bows or crossbows. And I took 12 arbalesters. So 12 arbalesters, you're talking about over 120 points of shooting attacks. You're not going to make up 120 points in shooting. Let's just be honest. Unless you get really lucky and focus all your shots and kill some big hero, which at 600 points there weren't a lot of them. I mean, the biggest hero I rolled against was Gothmog, And then the second biggest hero I rolled against was Lurtz. So even if I were to somehow kill Lurtz with all my shooting, you're still not making up all your crossbow shots. The key to using them is just, picking off a model here or there that helps turn the tide in your favor. And that's exactly what I did in all 3 of my games with them. It's just, that side, I'm outnumbered by 4 models. Let's focus on, okay, cool, I got 3 of them. So now my model count, their model count's not so bad over there. I can use my guys to shield a little bit to either get reinforcements or whittle down my opponent over time. So the shooting is definitely a strength. Weaknesses. Low defense. Yuck. Defense 4. The best one's defense 6, which is the Arbalester, but that's only against shooting. Otherwise, your majority of your models are base 4. Base 3, which can be upgraded to 4. I mean, even the Arbalester's base 3, unless you take Black Numenoreans, which have defense 6. And your heroes are not much better in their defense statistics. Even your hero of legend, Dalamir, defense 4. Yuck. 2 wounds with 3 fate. You're hiding him. The majority of the time when I move, I hide him until we get there. And then I bring him out and usually pair him up with a Reaver or a Boson in combat so I can have extra dice. Other thing you're lacking, no cav. So you're moving very slow. Very, very, very slow. You're having either burn points for heroic marches via Bosons, captains, or Black Numenorean marshals, or you're just slowly and methodically plodding yourself along. Something you can do to negate this is, depending on what the scenario is, to deploy as far forward as you want. Again, you don't want to sit back and get into a shooting war with these guys. Yeah, they can do pretty good in one. Don't get me wrong. The Arbalesters are nothing to laugh at in shooting, and I definitely think you should get as many as you can in. Don't oversaturate yourself. Like at 800 points, I would probably not take any more than 15 or 16 of them, just because at that point you're going to be oversaturated with shooting. And when you do go to get into combat, if you're fighting against somebody who's not a shooting heavy army, but is a defense heavy army like Minas Tirith or Iron Hills, they are going to run right over you because they don't really care about your fight 4 in that situation. If we're talking about Iron Hills, because they're also fight 4, and with their strength of 4, they're going to be killing your guys really, really easily. Where your strength of 3 is going to be having a hard time cracking the defense 6, defense 7 in shield wall for Minas Tirith, or defense 7, defense 8 in shield wall for Iron Hills. So that's the other thing. Reavers are also good, but they're kind of a weakness. You got to be careful with how to use them. If you lose your Bosons, then you've really hoping to pass some courage checks. I would say at 800 points, it might not be a bad idea to take at least one Black Numenorean with a Warhorn, just so that you can make sure that you have that courage 5 with them for if your Bosons somehow get shot out or killed. And I have seen it where they go, that does happen. So other than that, that's everything that I can think of for now for Corsairs of Umbar. Hope you guys learned something from this. Hope you guys have figured out some good tricks, some good statistics, some good ways to play them, some strategies to use either for or against, and stuff of that nature. Again, thank you all who have subscribed. I hope to gain more of you, and I hope to keep making great videos for you. Until then, please like, share, subscribe, and I will see you next time with another Tolkien Fanatic video. Take care.